Hello and welcome to yet another video after approximately half a year. Now, before you say it, I know I haven't really been that active lately. It's just that I've been having a hard time coming up with new ideas for videos, and university has just been, uni. And for those particular reasons, I decided to make this video right now. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the video. So, focal lengths. So what exactly are focal lengths and how does one incorporate them into their photography? Well, one quick Google search can tell you that the focal length is basically the distance between the center of a lens or a curved mirror to its focus. But we're not interested in what the meaning behind it is or the technicalities. We're just interested in how it influences the photos that we take, at least to all the photo enthusiasts out there. So basically, focal length is analogous to the amount of zoom a camera is able to achieve. The longer the focal length, the more the amount of zoom, and the lesser the focal length, the lesser the amount of zoom. Simple. But then you may ask, hey dude, why do I need to know about these focal lengths, man? When I want to take a picture of something close by, I zoom out, and when I want to take something which is far away, I zoom in. Well, focal lengths, or the amount of zoom, if you want to call it, actually influences how the photo actually looks like at the end. In terms of perspective. For example, let's say you take a picture of a person, completely zoomed out. Of course, you'll be able to take the picture of that particular person, but at the same time, you'll be introducing other foreign items in your picture which you may or may not want in the final photo. But let's say you take the same picture, but zoomed all the way in. Now this is where it gets interesting because the background actually gets compressed, which means that you won't be able to see much more of the background as if you were to be zoomed out. So this actually helps you to perhaps to draw attention to the main subject of the photo rather than other things in the background. And another thing some rookie photographers may not know is that it's actually harder to achieve that background blur effect, or some people like to call it bokeh, if you don't use a longer focal length. If you don't believe me, try it out yourself. I mean, just take a picture of anything while being zoomed all the way in to all the furthest that your camera can zoom. And you will notice that you can get a much more creamy, soft background blur as compared to if you were zoomed all the way out. Of course, it really depends on what kind of camera you're using as well, because the effect kind of differs between cameras. This is one of the reasons why some photographers use those really long lenses, kind of like telescopes, in order to shoot wildlife, because it helps to really draw attention towards the animals that they take. And another thing to note is that focal lengths actually come in different categories, and they are typically measured in units of millimeters. So less than 21 millimeters is considered to be a super wide angle lens. 21 to 35 millimeters is considered to be a wide angle. 35 millimeters to 70 millimeters is considered to be a typical human eyesight range. 70mm to 135mm is considered to be a standard telephoto, or in other words, it just means that it's basically zoomed in. And 135 to 300mm is a telephoto lens, or basically it's really, really zoomed in. So if you can get your hands on a lens that covers all these focal ranges, then technically you can take any kind of photo that you want. But of course, you need that, you know what I'm talking about. There shouldn't really be much of an issue if you're not dealing with digital SLRs or mirrorless cameras, because most smartphones and compact cameras already cover these focal ranges, some even more. But of course, due to the smaller sensor sizes in smartphones and compact cameras, and also due to the fact that some of them don't even utilize optical zoom, but rather they use digital zoom, there will still be some amount of quality loss when you're using them. So in order to get the best quality possible, you would need to get a lens for each particular category. That it means one for super wide angle, one for wide angle, and so on. This is why most mirrorless and digital SLRs usually come equipped with a kit lens which covers the 35 to 70mm range, which is the normal range, so that you can take some normal photos. Well, now you know why so many pro photographers usually switch their lenses when they are taking pictures of stuff. But even though, let's say you have a 35mm lens and you were to install it in a camera, you won't necessarily get 35mm out of it. Different cameras have different sensor sizes, and depending on the sensor size, you will need to apply a factor. Most people usually call it a crop factor in order to actually get the true focal length that your camera can output. For example, the Canon 60D, which is the camera that I'm using right now, has a crop factor of 1.6. This means that any lens that I mount on this camera, I would need to multiply that focal length with 1.6 in order to actually get the actual focal length that it can produce. Generally, the smaller the sensor, the higher the crop factor for that particular camera. Well, that was pretty technical. I hope you managed to understand all of that, and if you didn't, well, I tried. Anyways, hope to see you all in, another 6 months time again. Take care.